The Holy Gospel according to Mark in the 5th chapter.
Glory to you, Lord.
When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered around him, and he was by the sea. And then one of the leaders of the synagogue, named Jairus, came and said, and he saw him and fell at his feet, and he begged him repeatedly, "My little girl is at the point of death. Come, lay your hands on her, so that she may be made well and live." And so he went with him. And a large crowd followed him and pressed in on him. And now there was a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years. She had endured much under many physicians, and she had spent all that she had. And she was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard about Jesus, and came up behind him in a crowd and touched his cloak, for she said, "If I but touch his clothes, I will be made well." And immediately her hemorrhage stopped, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Immediately aware that power had gone forth from him, Jesus turned about in the crowd and he said, "Who touched my clothes?" And his disciples said to him, "You see the crowd pressing in on you. How can you say, 'Who touched me?'" He looked all around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." And while he was still speaking, some people came from the leader's house to say, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the leader of the synagogue, "Do not fear, only believe." He allowed no one to follow him except Peter, James, John, and the brother of James. And when they had come to the house of the leader of the synagogue, he saw commotion. People were weeping and wailing loudly. And when he had entered, he said to them, "Why do you make a commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they all laughed at him. Then he put them all outside, even the child's father and mother, and those who were with him, and went into where the child was. He took her by the hand, and he said to her, "Talitha cumi," which means, "Little girl, get up." And immediately the girl got up and began to walk about. She was 12 years of age. And this they were overcome with amazement. And he strictly ordered them that no one should know this, and told them to give her something to eat. This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise be to the Lord.
We've got one person down, right? The dad, begging for his daughter. And now we come to this wonderful story, rather tragic story, but absolutely beautiful story about this elderly woman. When you hear all of this, we have to understand what times were like in her point of reference. She is hemorrhaging, probably what we might call endometriosis today. And it's been going on for 12 years. And medicine being what it was, it's crude. There's no cure. They don't know how to cure this. And for 12 whole years, it says she has been going to physicians who never helped her. But not only that, she just got worse. And so her whole life is now defined, because she has hemorrhaging, as an unclean person. You may not touch an unclean person in Jesus' time, and to do so would make you unclean. So to see her coming is to go to the other side of the street. Avoid her. Don't go near her. And that is how she has lived her life for 12 straight years. She is the outcast. She is marginalized. And so she sees the crowd, and this is happening all through Mark's gospel. The crowds press in on Jesus. They like what they see. Not just the miracles, but somehow what he has to say to them is important, and it gets right into the heart of the matter of their lives. They're oppressed. Rome is there. They don't have their land anymore. They wonder, has God abandoned us? They remember the prophets, and they think, oh, the days of that were so good. Why can't we have some of them back? And so they see in Jesus the possibility that maybe what we have here is someone that expresses God's love for us. And so this huge crowd is there. He's gone, remember, across the sea. Last week they're in the boat, right? And now they finally got to the other side, and now they see, what travels are we going to do now? And the crowd comes. It's kind of like going to a football game and trying to get back to your car, and trying to get your car back into traffic, and you wait, and it pushes you around. And she somehow gets in the middle of the crowd. See how important this is. She sneaks in, because surely enough people know who she is, and they've been avoiding her for years, but somehow she gets in there. And somehow she's heard about who this Jesus is, and she makes the smallest demand. I'm not going to try to talk to him. I'm not going to try to grab his attention. There's something about the guy, so to speak, that allows me to do the minimum. And she does the minimum. She reaches out and she just touches. Now notice what it says. If I but touch his clothes, I think I will be made well. And she does it, and her hemorrhaging stops. And she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Now, this is the big time miracle that we all like, don't we? This is the big point of reference. But it really isn't. The big one is yet to come. There's more because of what Jesus is going to say to her in a moment. And so Jesus is immediately aware that some type of power has gone forth from him. And this is kind of an unusual little sentence that Mark uses, that somehow, whoever Jesus is, he knows that he has this frame of reference within himself, that he and the God he calls Father are in tune with each other. And so he feels that power. It's never happened to you, have you? No one's ever touched you and you felt power going on? Raise your hand if it's happened. Don't. I don't think it's happened to you. But he immediately feels that has happened. And he looks around and he says, "Who touched my clothes? Who did that?" And the disciples said, almost like sarcastically, "You see the crowd pressing in on you. How can you say who touched me? Give us a break, Jesus. There's no way we can tell you who touched you." But then he's still looking. Can you see him? Picture him in your mind. He's pressed all around. He's probably standing up like this. And he's trying to catch eyes contact with somebody. He's looking around to see who had done it. And it is at that moment, but the woman, knowing what had happened to her, knew that somehow he was going to catch her. He was going to find out who she was. So on her own volition, she comes down with fear and trembling. You know, that's kind of sad, because for the first time in 12 years, she feels good. She feels good physically. Yet somehow, the way she snuck in to get this little miracle makes her so afraid. And with fear and trembling, she falls down before him and she tells him the whole truth. And here it comes. It's even more important than the miracle itself. He says to her, not woman. He says to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Now go in peace, be healed of your disease. And that's where the real miracle is. Because this was once a woman who has no name in the scripture other than the fact that she is physically deformed in the eyes of everybody around her. She is not to be gone near. She is not to be touched. She is to be avoided at all costs. And now, in her healing, he does not say woman. He calls her daughter. The relationship has been made new. Jesus calls her daughter. And it's intimate, isn't it? It's so beautiful. It's so out of this world good. Because now she walks out renewed, not just in society, but she has a new position in life. She is a daughter of Israel. She is the daughter of all that was Israel. She is now the daughter of all the promises that were ever made. She is now the daughter, perhaps now the sister then, therefore, of Jesus. The relationship has been formed. Here is a woman of total vulnerability, and we don't like to see any of ourselves as being very vulnerable. It's the whole idea that you need to have confidence, and that's true. But I would say that in everybody I've ever talked to, and when people are genuinely honest, there is a vulnerability in every single one of us. The idea that perhaps we're not as great as we like to think we are. We're not as good looking as we might think we are. We are not the perfection that other people want to see to throw on us, that somehow, if people really saw us for what we are, they would wonder if we should be pushed out to the margins of society, not called as a daughter or a son, but simply as man or woman. And when we look at this text and we see this woman brought back, not just into society, but brought into a relationship with the God who loved her and is expressed through Jesus' healing hands, that we have the strength in our most vulnerable moment to go up like she did, perhaps in fear and trembling, and confess to Jesus who we really are. And in that confession, that Jesus looking upon us and saying, daughter or son, your faith has made you well. At any moment in our time and in our day is a good time to come home to Jesus.